All righty.
Okay.
Oh man, I know you out here doing your thing. What did I do with that? All right. Are we okay, Keisha? Oh no, we're not okay. Yep.
Hello, we can see you guys.
Yeah, I have it right here.
Can you hear us?
Okay, good to see you. No, I didn't, but I will.
Yeah. Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Not so much.
Yes, it ain't working. I called about it. I don't understand how we always have these problems.
Did they cut it off after hours?
That was Matt was here. We ain't never had this problem.
Man,
But I lost my phone.
you need a pen?
Yes, please. I thought I put it back in my pocket, and I must not.
Hey, Kemp, we can hear you loud and clear on the Zoom.
So, do we sign Jennifer's name since she's on?
Is she online, ain't she?
Yeah, do we still sign her name?
Yeah, it's on.
You want to sign
Yeah.
it? And then Tamara still has to sign it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am. What's that?
We all right? Right. We got action. Well, good evening, everyone, to our Akron Citizens Police Oversight Board meeting for June the 17th, 2026 at 6 p.m. We'll start off with our roll call. Aniskevich,
Here.
Elton,
Here.
Hawkins, I know it's Tamara, but I want to say last names. Tamara,
Brooks here.
Brooks, there it is. Krabs, here. Weems, Boswell,
Here.
awesome. And Mr. Peoples is absent, and Boyd is here. Thank you. Next is, I'd like to make a motion to accept last meeting's minutes. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, same sign. All right, now I'll go forth with our purpose and our value statement. The purpose, the overarching mission of the Akron Citizens Oversight Board is to foster conditions and police practices that ensure the safety of all residents of Summit County. Of the city of Akron. The CPOB is empowered by a new charter provision to independently direct the police auditor, whose office reviews investigations into complaints and misconduct involving officers. The board and auditor also review every standard investigation, whether by the Akron Police Department or outside agencies, into the use of force by an officer. Our values are as follows. Our decisions and our actions are motivated by our love for Akron and our desire for all to feel safe in the community. We value unity in voice and action. We respect each other and those we serve. We seek to build relationships of trust, and we always seek to conduct ourselves with integrity. We listen to understand, learn, and lead. We strive to be inclusive of all stakeholders' voices. We value change at a system level. We hold ourselves accountable for our actions and deeds, and we hold our partners and those we serve accountable to our actions and deeds as well. At this point, I'd like to move on to item number 5 on our agenda, which is Ms. Anaskevich, public comment.
Yes, we have a couple. Okay, so public comment, those who have filled out a form to engage in public comment, you get 3 minutes to speak. I'm gonna set a timer. When you hear the timer go off, you don't have to stop in mid-sentence. That would be rude, and I'm not gonna make you stop. Just go ahead and finish your thought, but please try not to go on any further beyond that. Okay, fair enough? Okay. Catalina? Can you turn your mic on? Is your mic on?
Thank you. My name is Catalina. I'm an Akron resident and a community organizer with the Akron branch of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. And I'm here to request that the Citizens Police Oversight Board conduct a full audit of the City of Akron's contract with Flock Safety, as well as the Akron Police Department's use of flock cameras and any data sharing with federal law enforcement agencies, including DHS and ICE. Flock Safety is a private company and provides AI-powered automated license plate reader systems used in mass surveillance. It has raised nationwide concerns regarding privacy and how Flock allows data to be used. Dozens of cities across the country have already canceled their contracts with Flock this year. There are several key concerns I want to raise. Number one, unlike other forms of video recording, such as Ring cameras, dash cams, CCTV, or cell phone camera, Flock camera makes data accessible without a warrant. This is a potential Fourth Amendment violation. Number two, we are also concerned about the usage of Flock camera by immigrant agencies such as ICE. An administrative investigation in Dayton found that enabling automatic sharing functions resulted in approximately 7,100 search requests citing immigration-related purposes from various law enforcement agencies. Number three, the AI-powered license plate reading is not reliable, especially with its misuse by the police. In April 2024, a Toledo police set a dog on a black man because the Flock camera misread the number 7 as a number 2, and the police believed that license plate was stolen. We demand transparency and accountability. Specifically, we are requesting that the board conduct an audit and make public information, including but not limited to who has accessed Flock data from the system and what types of queries were conducted. And number two, whether and how data is shared with federal agencies such as DHS and ICE. To close, I want to emphasize that Flock cameras, as well as the whole American policing system, does not prevent or eliminate crime, if not create more crimes conducted by the police themselves. The only way to safely address systemic injustice is by providing people with food, housing, jobs, physical and mental health care. The community makes us safe, not the police, let alone AI robots. Considering how AI has been taking people's jobs away, if the Akron Police Department truly believes flock cameras are so important and efficient, maybe they should consider laying off half their officers and returning the budget to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Catalina. Robert McClove, I'm sorry.
Hello, Akron. My name is Robert McClure. I'm a community organizer with DFlock Ohio and Flock out of Akron. This is my daughter, Margaret. I would like to reiterate everything that the previous speaker has just said. Flock is an unaccountable private organization run by techno-fascist billionaire Peter Thiel and his company Palantir, named after the evil all-seeing eye from the Lord of the Rings. As a deeply, deeply nerdy individual, that comparison alone sends shivers down my spine. Flock and Flock Safety has been sued by multiple jurisdictions and multiple states all across this country, including the city of Norfolk, Virginia, which has a current lawsuit ongoing. In Evanston, Illinois, the Flock contract was canceled and Flock reestablished and reinstalled their cameras without the permission of the city. This is a completely unaccountable and rogue organization that seeks to do nothing more than mass surveillance. I also demand a full audit of the city's use of the Flock cameras, who has logged in and for what purpose. In the state of Ohio, over 280 police jurisdictions and sheriff's offices have been deputized to work with DHS. As a standard part of the Flock contract, inter-law enforcement agency sharing of data is common. If the city of Akron is sharing data with any jurisdiction that has been deputized by ICE, we are sharing data with ICE. With North Hill being one of the largest immigrant communities in the area, that is a deeply, deeply troubling thing. I humbly request that the board demand an audit immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. Is there anyone else? Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders-Gibbs, and thank you to our community for their public comments. Yeah, we appreciate that. Thanks so much. Now we're going to move on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is our committee report outs. First, beginning with our independent police auditor, Mr. Anthony Fennell. Mr. Fennell.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I want to point your attention to the general auditor's report in our packet. You'll see that it looks a little different than before, and where I'm just listing the do not concur findings. And the reason for that is I'm proposing some changes to the Office of Independent Police Auditors Recommendations Review and Reporting Process. These changes have come out of both review and consideration of the recently released PERF report, as well as through conversations with Mr. Craig Morgan for the city of Akron on how we being collectively the Independent Auditor's Office and the board and the city, how we can work better to have responses and action taken on the recommendations that come out of the use of force reviews and the reports that we produce and we present to the board. The overall recommendations are intended to improve the oversight process, and out of those conversations with the city, they plan to create a critical incident review board framework in which the recommendations will flow through for consideration and discussion to determine, number one, if the recommendations will be implemented, and if the implementation will consist of a policy development, policy improvement, or a training mechanism. So historically, the recommendations have been reviewed individually, regardless of whether the OIPA has agreed or disagreed with APD's investigative findings. And this approach has ensured that recommendations receive attention. It's also required substantial resources and often limited the ability to identify recurring trends and broader organizational issues. And I might add that this week we were approved for the funding for our case management system. We are now moving forward with that and should begin work on that within the next 3 weeks. And the reason that's important and worth noting is because we're going to be able to compile in a systemic way the recommendations that are made, as well as look at the data from uses of force that we reviewed and will review to identify trends and patterns. So, like I said, we want to make sure that our resources are used effectively and efficiently. And I've included in the packet tonight a memo outlining the changes that I would propose. So I want to just note some key changes, and then I'll open it up for any discussion or questions from the board, as we did discuss this at our review committee and governance committee, and there were some questions that came out from the members present, but I'm sure there may be additional questions from board members. So the cases in which we would issue a dissent or we disagree with the APD findings, we would follow the existing review process where we bring those cases to the review committee and the community discuss those cases. Then we bring them to the full board for adoption of the recommendations, which are then forwarded on to the mayor and the city council. So because these cases involve disagreement regarding investigative outcomes, they will remain the highest priority for board review and oversight. The new process for concurring cases with recommendations would ensure that the full board can review cases on a case-by-case basis as needed, and no longer proceed through the full board process as we've previously done. Instead, those recommendations would be collected and tracked over a 6-month reporting period. The recommendations will be categorized by subject matter, including policy, training, supervision, investigative processes, officer judgment and decision-making, and other identified areas. And then similar recommendations will be grouped together and analyzed for recurring patterns and trends. And this change recognizes that recommendations often reveal broader organizational issues that are better understood through trend analysis than through isolated case review. And so what that means is that my office would produce semi-annual recommendation reports and present those to the board and the community for consideration. Once those have been approved, then we would move into the discussion and implementation process with the city, looking at, like I said, the various trends and patterns that each of those categories produces. So
Mr. Fennell, hold on 1 second. Before you go any more, because I know it's a lot of information, does anybody have any questions?
Right, I was going to pause
Mr.
and open
Fennell,
it up for questions.
as far as the new kind of process?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Elton.
Hi, Auditor Fennell. My
Hello.
question would be, you just went over, you would be selecting cases on a case-by-case basis for the new process for concurring cases with recommendations. What criteria will you use to select the cases that are viewed case by case?
Well, I will not select those cases. I will provide to the board and to the community all of the cases we review as we normally do currently. So the community, the board will continue to see and receive every case that we review. The community will receive every case that we review. During our committee meetings, you, the board members and or community members can pull specific cases where, say, we concur with APD's findings, but you still want to have a discussion about specific actions. You decide those. I don't decide those. It's only on the ones where we have a complete dissent of the APD findings where we will actually pull those cases and make sure that those cases are brought to the review committee for a full discussion and then brought to the board for discussion and a vote.
Copy. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Jennifer, did you have your hand up to ask a question?
I did. No, it wasn't to ask a question. It was just to share that I had a similar question when we met at the committee review. And so I just wanted to share that Mr. Fennell assured that we would have discussion over any particular case that we would review and have questions or clarifications needed. And I'll also say that my other question of Mr. Fennell at that meeting was about making sure that we're not just saving all of the recommendations for a 6-month review, that the Akron Police Department is still receiving continual feedback from the auditor's office. And he assured that he's still doing the reviews and the reports, and those are still going as they're conducted. It's just that the putting it together in this format gives it's a format of looking at the thematic problems or issues that we're seeing by trends. So it's not information overload. And it gives Mr. Fennell the opportunity to assess from one period of time over another whether improvements have happened in these areas.
Ms. Brooks?
So my question would be, with the understanding that these would be just the reports that you concurred with, how do we then address the public in the interim, despite you concurring, if they feel as though they've seen something that equates to excessive force, and us just leaving that unaddressed and only speaking on it twice a year kind of feels like it'll fracture the relationship between this board and the community?
Okay, one of the things I do want to stress and point out is that there are several things that aren't going to change. And again, the community we will be completely and have been completely transparent in the distribution of all of our case reports, whether we concur with the findings or there is a non-concurrence. And that will continue. That will continue to because we will continue to independently review all cases, and each month those cases will be provided to the community via the agenda packets, and the community can still weigh in on any case that we review. I will just not present each case for an individual review as we've done in the past. But if there's something that anyone, whether it's on the board or the community, states, hey, case number 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd like to talk about that because I have concerns. Great. That case will be available and we will have that discussion. And based on that discussion, if I get any new information or based on that discussion, some things need to change, those changes will be made. So the community will always have that access and the board will always have that ability to do that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, at this previous committee meeting, it was my understanding that we were not going to be reading through each report at the committee meetings, and we are not going to be reading through each report at the full board meetings. So how, other than the 3 minutes that we give them, would the community express to us, I have a concern and would like the board to discuss this case?
Well, the committee meeting is where that discussion will be, where the community will be able to engage in that discussion. Now, at the monthly board meeting, if they still have a concern, then they can raise that concern, to which we'll bring it back to the committee. See, the whole objective is to, number one, streamline the process and be more efficient with the time and resources that we have, but also be able to allow at the committee level the opportunity for anyone to engage in those conversations so that we can have a robust discussion. Because right now, currently at our board meetings, we still can't, the board members can have those discussions, but the community is only allotted 3 minutes at the public for public speaking to have to weigh in on those discussions.
So we will have open discussion, if I'm correct, at the committee level, at the review committee, to where the community then can chime in as far as each of the reports. Am I correct in saying that, or I'm not?
You are correct. If that's what the desire of the community and the committee is at that time, if they see a report during that previous time period that they wish to have a more in-depth discussion, they can bring their questions and concerns, and we'll engage at that time to answer those questions.
And so we will be reading reports at the committee level.
Again, if the board members present or the community members present have questions or concerns about an individual report, they will. We will not go through every individual report at the committee level. The review committee purpose, as I understand it, and as it has been done since I've been here, is that we review the cases where there is dissent on our part with the findings, or where there is a critical incident where the recommendations are going to be pushed forward for the mayor and the city administration to address. Now we're taking and looking at all recommendations that are going to be pushed forward on a 6-month basis, because we're looking at the systemic trends and patterns, not necessarily the individual ones, because what we're seeing in many of these cases is the same recommendations coming forward. So it's more so, is this we need to identify, and I say we, being all parties involved, APD, the city, and the board and my office, need to identify, is this an individual officer issue? Is this a training issue? Is this a policy issue? And in order to do that, we have to gather the data from all of the cases to see what the data tells us. And we're putting together the tools to do that with the case management system. But that anything that is an individual officer issue, we'll address that individually. But what we're seeing is the same types of issues coming up numerous times in different sets of circumstances. So that's telling me that there's something more than just an individual officer issue or concern.
Ms. Elder?
Mr. Fennell,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Anaskew.
Mr. Fennell, is there any, okay, I'm a little bit confused, I think, but maybe not. I thought that the cases that were going to be reviewed, because there are so many cases, there are more cases that you concur with than not. I thought the cases that were going to be reviewed were the ones that you did not concur with the police recommendations, or that you were making recommendations because you did not concur with the outcomes of the police department. Is that correct or not?
In part, it is. The cases where we do not concur at all with the APD findings, we've always brought those and will continue to bring those before the board. The cases where, say, we concurred with the findings, but there was recommendations that we felt could improve the actions or the process by which APD function, we're not going to necessarily bring those individually. Okay. But we will collect that data and we will, because like I said before, what we're finding is that many of the same sets of issues appear in different use of force incidents, whether it's a training issue, whether it's a policy issue, or it's an area that improvement may be needed. So instead of looking at each individual one and then bringing that to the mayor and the council for a response, we're going to collect all of those and then bring it as we look to resolve that problem and try to correct that issue.
Okay, I understood. The second part of my question is there any instance where recommendations will be brought out within the confines of our monthly board meetings to the citizens of Akron? Like, will we be discussing it in this form? Because I'm just playing devil's advocate here a little bit. There may be something that comes up, an instance that come up in the city, something that's emotionally charged, that's media charged and all that type of thing. And the public is going to expect for us to be discussing this, perhaps your recommendation or in this forum that we're in here today. Is there any instance where you would be doing that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And on those occasions, as a board, it's within your authority and your responsibility to bring that to the forefront. I'm talking about on just for the regular use of force reviews that we do
Yes.
monthly. And I actually have been preparing this document for the last year now that brings, to your point, brings the list of themes that encompass the recommendations for that monthly period, and the one memo, and it just addresses the cases that we reviewed during that monthly period and the themes that came out of that group of cases. But each month, that group of themes may change a little, depending on what types of cases we look at in the month. But over a year's period, we're consistently within 12 to 15 different themes that have emerged. Now, all of those themes may not appear each month, but consistently, since if you look over to 2025, it's consistently been the same themes that have occurred. So now we have to start looking at those different themes and prioritizing which ones we need to tackle first, and which problems we need to address first. So this is all part of that process of building out the system that we, being the auditor's office and the board, will use to identify patterns and trends and themes within uses of force, and then look for solutions, whether it's a policy related solution, a systems related solution, or a training related solution.
Ms. Helton, then we'll go to Ms. Brooks.
All right, thank you for your answer. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm still concerned with transparency and the community. So sometimes at the community meetings, we may not have a lot of buy-in from the community at that meeting. So they may not have an opportunity to speak to an investigation or a report, even if they just have a comment. So is there a process in which there can be an open 3-day window for the community to address what you put out if they're not available to come to the meetings on that day of the week? I'm really concerned about the transparency, and I think, I spoke to that when we first started discussing this, and I understand Ms. Brooks' point of view as well. We cannot afford for the community to believe that we are not being transparent. So I think that there has to be a process in which there is an open door, some kind of a period where they have an opportunity to respond to what you put out.
Can I respond to her question real quick? So valid concern, valid question, but to bring forth a question like that, you must have, you need to have some kind of solutions as to how would that happen? How would we have that 3-day, what would that look like?
That's why
How
I'm
would we do
asking
that?
Auditor Fennell, is there a process in which this is his work product?
Right, but I'm thinking that it would be the board's responsibility to come up with some kind of 3-day system, not, he's the auditor. It would be our,
I realize that, but he said he's been working on this for a year. So I'm asking the auditor, is there a process in which, and it may not need to be a 3-day period. You've done the work. You said you've done it for almost a year. I'm
Mhm.
sure you went through a lot of scenarios before putting your product together.
but I guess what I'm saying is, as a board, that, we got 9 souls here. We finally have a full board with everybody who has different backgrounds, different skill sets, different educational levels. I would think that we could come up with something. To your point, that's a good point. Actually, I like it. But I would think it would be our responsibility to come up with something to brainstorm something like that and then bring it to Mr. Fennell and say, we think this would be a good idea if you set it up like this. What do you think? He's doing all the work.
Right?
And to your point, how do we now make that work more transparent to the public? Is that something that we can come up with?
I understand your point, but it's his product. And so I would like to know what his thought process is.
Okay.
Well, if I may,
You have a comment on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Before, Mr. Fennell, before you share your thought process, I think just in defense of the question posed to him, we had a process. The process was read all the reports at the committee meeting. The recommendation is that we change the process. I'm not sure how productive it is for us to then do the work to come up with a new process in response to the recommended change. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? What we were doing was reading all of the reports at the committee meetings, allowing the community to respond and interact on those reports, and then making decisions here at this full board meeting. If we are then going to take something away and then just do it semi-annually, I think it's a valid question to say, how then do we protect the integrity of transparency and community input if we're going to change that process?
okay, could
Jennifer has a question.
could I stop this for a second? Could I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you're making, there's an assumption that this is less transparent. And I want to make this perfectly clear. It is the same level of transparency as before. I have provided all of the reports that we have produced and have been providing all of those reports for the last year. So we are completely transparent in the work we produce and the recommendations that come with each report. What we have discussed in the past at the review committee meeting were primarily reports where I concurred with, say, the use of force, or I concurred with the officer's actions. However, there were recommendations that still were made for areas that needed to be improved. But if you look at every report that we've produced, Ms. Myers and I produce, almost 99% of those reports have some recommendation. Now, we don't talk about every single recommendation, but I provide every recommendation every month. And I would provide that in a couple of formats. One, with the reports that we discuss, and collectively with all of the reports, whether we discussed it or not, in the memo that's usually labeled the thematic recommendations, and it breaks them down into their categories with associated case numbers assigned to each category, so anyone can look at the recommendations within a grouping or within a theme and then go to that corresponding report to see the incident from which that recommendation was derived. So none of that's going to change. What's going to change is when we get to sending those recommendations to the mayor and to the city council, we're sending repeat recommendations and we don't have enough time really to really drill down on finding a solution. And what I'm trying to do with this is not send them individually, but look for, again, the trend and the pattern, because that's what's going, as we look for a solution, whether it's a policy change or a training, that's what's going to help us develop those pieces that then, once APD implements those, and once everyone within APD has been trained on the new policy or the new training, then we can start to evaluate its impact. Are we still seeing those instances? Are we seeing more? Has that policy changed, or the training helped? And that's where we can start to gauge whether those recommendations and those policy changes and those trainings are a success or not. And we can go back and tweak that. And that's why I'm giving it a 6-month period, because we have to give it time to be implemented and time to see the results of the implementation and be able to measure that. And you can't really measure it on an individual basis, because if I find after, say, a 6 or 7 month period, we see a downward shift in these incidences occurring, whatever that incident may be, then we can start to look at the individual officers. If an officer is the one doing this, has that officer not applied the training? Has that officer just disregarded the policy? Or is it a systemic issue? Those are questions we don't have enough data to answer, because we really can't measure it at this point. I'm trying to build a system where we can measure it and where it does not overload on the back end being APD, to where we don't even get a response. Right now, APD is working with us on their end to create the mechanism within the department to address these issues. That is what the Critical Incident Review Board will do. Once that's created, we'll be a part of that to bring these issues to that board and then start the process of, is it a policy, is it a training, or is it a system? And get those answers and begin to create some solutions to these problems. But to your concern, we will always be transparent with the community. And if a community member sees a case and they want to have a discussion about it, we will have that discussion. But just to speak to all 30 or 35 cases that we generally look at each month, that's not a productive time in creating a solution to the problem. But if there's a specific case, obviously, yes, that door is always going to be open. And I've made this known before, and I'm saying it again, at any time, anyone can reach out to me directly with questions that I'll definitely bring to the committee meeting and to the board meeting to make sure that those questions are addressed.
Ms. Boswell?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say that after the committee meeting last week, I went back in and reviewed this proposal very carefully and looked at the website again, looked at how the information is posted to the public. And I came away from it thinking just what Mr. Fennell just submitted, that for the public, it's the same process. If they are interested in the reviews are still posted each case. The member of the public can review it in advance of the committee meeting and come to the committee meeting and have every opportunity to participate in the committee meeting as they always have. The only difference would be that they can't come to the committee meeting expecting for the board and the auditor to read through each case if they haven't prepared and read it themselves. But the trade-off is that with the new report that consolidates the report numbers under the theme, a member of the public could use that document easily to focus their attention on maybe the 5 or 6 cases that are really concerning to them, rather than spending all the time going through every report in the packet. And that takes a lot of time. I mean, there were 26 reports included in the last packet, and that takes a lot of time for us, but we do that because that's our role. But for a member of the public to have time to read through all 26, they're always welcome to. But maybe if they're interested most in the juvenile cases, they can go to that section of Mr. Fennell's report and see which cases fell under that area of concern. So I think you don't lose anything from this process from the public side. It's all the same opportunity. And if a member of the public wasn't able to come to the committee meeting, just as they always have, they're able to email Mr. Fennell at his email address that's on the web page, the same page they would go to read the packet. So the same things are still available to the public to submit concerns if they're not able to be present.
So we need to make a motion in a second, if I'm correct, to accept the new proposed changes to the OIPA recommendation review and reporting process. Is that correct, Ms. Fennell?
Yes.
Is there anyone else who has anything else to discuss? Okay,
Well, can we make a motion? I'll make a motion. Can I get a second?
second,
Any further discussion? All right, we're roll call vote. Anaskevich,
yes.
Boswell,
Yes.
Brooks,
No.
Krabs,
Yes.
Elton, Hawkins, Weems, Boyd, yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Fennell. You're up.
Just for documentation, what was the vote count? I couldn't hear everything. I'm sorry.
It was, yep, 7-2. Well, no, I'm sorry. It
Six
was,
to two.
yeah, 6-2.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, thank you. And to that point, I have nothing else at this time. Thank you.
Are we bringing so I have on here a monthly recommendation memo? Is it?
Okay. Well, that's not something we need a vote on. That was we
Okay.
kind of talked about that during this discussion.
Okay.
As well.
So that's all your report?
For right now, yes.
All right. So next I'm going to governance, committee report and consent agenda, the SRO task force. Who's bringing that?
You
I
wanna
guess I
start,
will speak on
Jennifer?
behalf.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I will speak on behalf. I was the only board member present for the committee meeting. And so I was able
Ms.
to.
Brooks was there, Ms. Boswell.
She was there momentarily. We did not, I don't believe.
I did not stay for the entire meeting, no.
Okay.
That's
What
correct.
happened? I'm confused.
Go ahead, Ms.
You
Boswell.
were there, you weren't there?
I
or-
was there. I didn't stay for the entirety of the meeting.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Boswell.
So I was able to review the proposal and look back at my notes from our last board meeting. And I would like to propose that we approve this proposal. I believe that it is a opportunity to take into account that an organization from the public came forward to us.
Hold on one second, Ms. Boswell. So,
Sure.
so we need a motion to take it off table to bring
Okay,
it back into session. So are you making a motion to take the SRO, what was this originally called? Was it a recommendation?
It was, it was, the SRO, it was a memo recommending that, we send to the, mayor to create an SRO task force.
Okay, so there was a memo that was placed on the table, so we need to make a motion. There needs to be a motion to take it off the table to bring it back before the board. So,
Okay.
Ms. Boswell, you making a motion to take it off the table?
Yes, sir.
Can I get a second?
Second,
All right, we'll roll call vote. Aniskevich?
yes.
Boswell?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Krabs?
Yes.
Elton? Hawkins? Weems? Boyd, yes. All right, motion passes. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're all right.
So I think what I was about to say is that, you know, the NAACP has done a lot of work around this issue of the SROs, and they've identified some areas of concern. And then when I looked at Mr. Fennell's report to us for the committee meetings and for this meeting, there is a sizable number of cases that we've reviewed that directly address this issue of the SROs and also juvenile related incidents. So I feel like we have an opportunity here. We have a moment where we have members of the public who've expressed concern. We have Mr. Fennell's observance of a trend in that area. And then we know that next July, the MOU between Akron Public Schools and Akron Police Department will expire. So there will be an opportunity in the future for those entities to review their language that they include, you know, that they need to include for it to be consistent with state law and other things. But also because there's substantive issues about how to police and how not to police inside a school setting, I think that this is a good idea. And the proposal is to present it to the mayor for the mayor's consideration. So I think we're an appropriate body to submit that for the mayor's consideration.
Mr. Fennell?
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Boswell. I want to add that since our last board meeting, I have received some input and feedback from members of the community. So I made some minor changes to the original request. In the original request, it had like a time frame of when to do this and when to have this completed, and that has been removed, taking into consideration the other outstanding factors. The original time frame was at the request of, you know, again, the community members that came to me before to present this initially, but taking into consideration the realities, those timeframes have been moved, and it's simply a request outlining what the role and rationale and role would be of such a task force. But the request is for the mayor to initiate this process.
Ms. Brooks, you have something?
Yes. So are we only opining on the portion that has to do with the training, and that is the entirety of our recommendation? Or are we also including the entirety of his ask, which is recommending alteration of the contract that exists between a third party that has nothing to do with this board and the Akron Police Department?
Well, we're not recommending an alteration of the current contract. We are recommending that the mayor create a task force so that future contracts and future agreements encompass what is in this memo listed. So the ask is that the mayor calls for the establishment of an Akron SRO reform task force. And then that task force would be charged with producing a comprehensive SRO reform framework, which encompasses training standards, clear role definitions, community-based alternatives, joint APS-APD training, contractual revisions to ensure accountability and compliance and integration with APS's equity and restorative practice frameworks. So instead of, say, just renewing the current contract, there would actually be discussions on changes at the appropriate time to go into that contract to ensure that, again, that there's training standards, clear role definitions, and the remainders of the ask.
How then do we protect ourselves or this future task force from claims of tortious interference with contracts? We can't force Akron Public Schools to agree to any terms that we think they should agree to in a contract. We only oversee the police. So how do we control or make them obliged to terms that we are saying a task force should set?
Well, we don't have control to make anybody do anything. I mean, that's the reality of it. But since it involves Akron police officers and the use of Akron police officers, this board has the authority to opine on the actions of APD. And what we're asking is that the mayor create a task force of community people that includes us, that includes all stakeholders who have a stake in juveniles and juvenile actions, whether it's education, whether it's criminal behavior, whether it's rehabilitation, whether it's mental health, and have a say in how APD operates and functions within the APS school system. So we do have a place to speak to that. We're not interfering with a current contract, but if the mayor creates a task force that weighs in on that contract, I think we are within our rights to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Fennell. Ms. Elton and then Ms. Anaskevich.
Okay, I have one question for Jennifer. You spoke of a proposal. Is that proposal the same? Are you speaking about the Auditor Fennell's report, or are you speaking about a different document?
No, Mr. Fennell's report on this.
Okay, and Auditor Fennell, you indicated that you made some minor changes to the document. Did you provide the board with a new written?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it was provided with the packet.
Okay. So I still have some of the same concerns about the criteria of the task force and how they would be selected.
It's up to the mayor.
Yeah, that's up to the mayor.
That's up to the mayor.
We're just asking that we would, if this passed, you would be making a formal ask that the mayor do that. In my report, there are recommendations, but it's totally up to the mayor on if he chooses to do the task force and then who would be at the table.
Right, but my concern is our recommendations. You have some recommendations that are specific to different groups, of course, the NAACP, and then some recommendations that are vague.
Well, these recommendations came from community members. They're not my recommendations. I've just put them in the document that they came from various community individuals.
So if we could, what is the actual motion that we're trying to present on the table? Because I think that'll bring some clarity. And Ms. Boswell, do you have the actual motion that you are presenting to the board?
Yes.
If you can say that, please, and then we can take a motion and continue to have discussion.
Let me, I'm sorry. I don't have that window open. I move that we, as a board, make a recommendation to the mayor of the city of Akron to consolidate or to appoint a task force.
An SRO task force.
An SRO task force, as presented by Mr. Fennell in his report.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that as a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, continue the discussion.
Okay. Mr. Fennell, I don't know if you remember, way back, when all of this thing first started with the incident that happened, I believe, at Firestone High School with the head strikes to the young man, the kid. And I was concerned then on how far is our board going to be pulled into a different entity, meaning the Akron Public School System, as it relates to the SRO officers. I thoroughly understand our responsibility with our relationship with the police department as it relates to the community. My big concern is, what are the boundaries going to be to keep us, this board, this body, from being thoroughly pulled into uh, I don't know, a contract dispute that could come up with the SRO officers or anything like, I don't want us to be a third wheel, if you will, on how the SRO officers are going to be managed in the school district, when that really has nothing to do with this board. Only thing we're looking at is police conduct. That's what we were pointed to do, and I understand the police work in the schools, the SRO officers. I'm just concerned about where the boundaries are going to begin and end to our responsibility as a board with that system.
Hold on one second before you say that. Ms. Hawkins keeps saying page 6. Ms. Hawkins, what's on page 6 exactly?
Turn her mic on, please. We can't hear.
Your mic,
Okay.
mic.
Turn on your mic. Turn on your mic.
Oh, I thought I talked. Okay, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. So it talks about, on page 6 of the document that he sent for today, it talks about the concerns raised by the CPOB board, as well as what, is needed, what we suggested, what stakeholders or groups were suggested.
Okay.
It talks about Dr. Goggins, and it does state that, it talks about, NAACP, but it says that AP, let me see, I think it's on 5. Written response from the mayor. At the end of the day, it states that the Akron Police Department, they will be, reviewing the reform. They'll be in charge of everything that is going on.
Okay, I don't think I have that
Yep,
document.
so it says APD is the leadership is confirmed, and that the SROs remain fully under APD command, is perf driven, and the reform apply equally to the SROs, and APD is willing to collaborate on improvements.
Okay, thank you. What
Yep.
document are you reading?
So the packet for today with the, it's on page 5 and 6 is where it starts. And it says 6/17/2026 COPB agenda packet.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Ms.
Thank you,
Brooks?
Mr. Fennell.
My question, I guess, is to Ms. Boswell, because you said you read this in depth. What then does this board do if upon our recommendation, the mayor adopts this and APS says, we just won't contract with Akron Police Department, we'll use private security? Or APD, which in the past has not adopted our recommendations, has decided not to adopt our recommended training and decide we're just not going to work in Akron Public Schools. How then do we respond to, one, the police department for taking away a financial resource, and to the community who their children are no longer being protected?
I don't view it that we would be doing anything. We are recommending on behalf of the community and the concerns they brought forward, and the trend that we are seeing in our own work with the number of cases associated with school-based and youth-focused policing. It's already going to be a topic for the Critical Incident Review Board. If you look at page 14 of the packet, you'll see the themes under category number 1, juvenile school-based and youth-focused policing. And already one of the themes that Mr. Fennell has brought to our attention with the case reviews are these different areas where we need to the department, Akron Police Department, needs to investigate guidelines or training or policy guidance. So we already know that Mr. Fennell will go to the new Critical Incident Review Board and be asking them, members of the Akron Police Department, to have some response to these recommendations. But then over on the side, we have a community organization saying we have concerns about this too. So I view it as an opportunity for the mayor to have collaboration with multiple entities that have concern over the same issue. And what that task force ultimately comes back to the mayor with, then that's up to the mayor to implement. And
So
the mayor would have to, as he does every day in his work, balance what each entity, how to incorporate whatever recommendations come from that group.
So I think perhaps I did not ask a great question. In response to that information, wouldn't it be a better and more appropriate recommendation for this board to say, before APD sends an officer into the school, they have the specialized juvenile training? That way we are making a recommendation about an entity that we are assigned to oversee and not making any recommendations about a third party who we have nothing to do with. And if they adopt the recommendation, great. If they don't, okay. But to make a recommendation to the mayor to say, hey, we want you to implement this task force, who is going to be a controlling body over APD and APS, I agree, I think it's overstepping.
Well, but it's not controlling. I mean, a task force is not controlling. It's designed to get together points of view from multiple people who are all talking about the same process. So the task force wouldn't be controlling anything. It would be bringing together people with similar concerns, but different perspectives to talk about these issues. And then hopefully this is where government works, is to say, we're going to have these different groups of people who are all kind of, they're all kind of searching for the right ground or the right solution to a problem that we are already identifying to the Akron Police Department. And so we know that from the comment from the NAACP last month, that we know that the NAACP has already approached Akron Public Schools about this. So they know Akron Public Schools is not going to be caught off guard by this conversation. And I think that the staff of Akron Public Schools, they have the capacity to tell the mayor, yes, we are able to participate in the task force and we want that opportunity because we want to hear the concerns of the community. We want to hear about what Mr. Fennell has seen in his review of cases. We want to have representation by Akron PD, or they can tell the mayor, we can't participate or have a reason. That is up to our executive leadership to manage that. I view it as we are conduit for sharing with the mayor that we see a commonality in what different people are concerned about.
Go ahead, Ms. Eldon.
Okay, my concern is I don't see anybody here today in the gallery from Akron Public Schools. We keep saying that Akron Public Schools is aware of it and have been approached. But my question again, do we have buy-in from Akron Public Schools leadership?
Mr. Fennell, your hand is up.
Yes, to that specific question, and this is much broader than this situation. I think as a board and definitely as the auditor's office, it is our responsibility that when we identify an issue, to bring that issue to the forefront. We don't necessarily have to wait to bring that issue if we have buy-in from those that may be impacted by that issue or those who may have to make a change by that issue. I think it is up to us and is our responsibility, and the community expects us to bring those issues to the forefront. So having said that, this is all this is doing. What happens after, if the mayor were to create a task force and accept this recommendation? That is not, we would become then a piece of that process if we're at the table, and we should be at the table because we've identified some of the issues, but we're not going to guide the process. But anything, and if you look at the charter, anything that APD does, we have a duty to review it and opine on it. What happens after that is beyond our control. So we can't, we can't worry if APD were to say, well, we're not going to work in the schools because we raise an issue about the things that we found. If that were to be their decision, that's a totally different conversation that APD would have to address with the schools. That would not be our fault because we raised concerns that the community has about the actions that occur in the schools. And by bringing multiple entities to the table, many of these issues that we've seen over the last year or so have the police are trying to address problems that maybe other entities need to be at the table to also address. So we don't have these kind of concerns, but we're hamstringing our police if we put them in an environment where they're limited in the tools that they can use and then have to come back and complain because the police use the tools that they have. So we're trying, this is a way to open the discussion and look at the issues that have occurred and come up with some solutions that would work, that would allow the police to be SROs and not have to just strictly be the police inside the school walls. So it's not, while it may seem like it's a slight on the SROs, if we've hamstrung them and given them limited resources and they're in that instant where they have to take a child to the ground and we haven't given them alternatives, then that's on us, especially when we've identified that there's possible alternatives to address some of the issues that are seen within APS other than using police.
Thank you, Ms. Fennell. Ms. Brooks.
And I just want to bring this up before we put it to a vote. I think that what needs to be in consideration is the delicate balance that this board has, right? Our responsibility is not just to the community, it is also to the Akron Police Department. So any recommendations that we make, we have to be in consideration of how it affects both of those bodies. The community has come forth and said, we want this. Maybe sometimes our responsibility is to explain to them how it will affect the Akron Police Department and then not be good for the community. I wholeheartedly believe getting involved in contract disputes or discussions between the Akron Police Department and a third party will hurt both the Akron Police Department and the community. If we are looking for a resolution, it should be what recommendation can we make that only governs over and or affects the Akron Police Department and then will serve the community. I think that recommendation would be that before Akron Police Department puts an officer in a school, they engage in that juvenile specialized training.
Mr. Krabs.
Yeah, I think the NAACP representative, Dr. Goggins, said that they are going to go forward whether we endorse this or not. And I do think there's some lack of clarity, although I agree, Auditor Fennell has saying there's a problem here. But whether we sign on to this proposal or not, we can address the problem through our normal processes. So really what this is a community group that's looking for perhaps more authority or more way to leverage a meeting, which they're free to pull together anyways and pull together community groups. The question really is, are we going to insert ourselves in a position where we basically support what I'm at this point not comfortable myself signing on to, because I think there's complications. So I encourage the NAACP to do what they want to do without necessarily the board endorsing it.
So if I can just comment here, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember every single meeting that we've had. However, I don't feel like this is an unprecedented thing for this board. I think that, man, we did this with something else. I just can't remember what it was, so forgive me. I don't hear that we are disputing a contract. I don't hear that in the recommendation. What I hear is simply making a motion to send a memo based on a third party who is the NAACP that have said that, hey, we believe there needs to be an SRO task force. I don't hear anything about a contract in that, to my understanding.
So
Maybe I'm missing something.
So the discussions for the contract came into play where we asked the representative who showed up here, what would this task force do? What would their responsibilities be? How does that look? And in this report, it is the task force would pretty much outline what the APD could be contracted to do while they're in APS spaces. That is my concern, because either of those entities could decide, I'm not doing that. You put together this task force, they outline this, I'm not doing it. And then we have no policing in the schools, which is not good for APD or the students.
But what does the board have to do? Where's the board's role in what you just stated? That's
That's what the discussion is.
This full report is the recommendation that we think a task force should exist and we think it should do these things.
the board thinks that.
Yes.
So
I just got a copy of it.
So we're saying this task force should have the authority to determine what needs to be done from a school perspective and a police perspective.
Yes, that is my
Is
understanding.
Is that
No,
okay? You're
We're
saying
just
I was
no.
gonna say, I don't see where
No.
that's our role.
no. The task force is going to be like any other task force that's ever been created in the history of task forces. They study a problem, they come back with solution, and then it's up to the parties to decide what they're going to implement. They don't have the authority to implement or make them do anything, but their recommendations will most definitely help in the discussion for future contracts and future SRO application and APS relationships if APS and APD adopt the recommendations of the task force. But this is simply calling for us to basically go out and do a community engagement piece where we're bringing the community together that on this topic that involves the police. And in doing so, we've identified that more people need to be at the table, and this is a problem, and that more people need to be at the table. We could make recommendations that SROs need to have certain training before they can be an SRO. We could make that recommendation, but then that recommendation will most likely come out of a task force. I mean, if the task force were formed, that same recommendation would most likely come out. But there would also be other entities or other organizations represented there who would also be able to weigh in on what that specialized training really looks like. That's all. We're making a recommendation to create the task force to really study the problem in depth and come up with solutions. We as a board, and you as a board, would not be responsible for the solutions. You would be part of the solution, but not responsible wholeheartedly, because other stakeholders, if the task force were created, would be a part of those conversations. But we're just doing what we can and should be doing based on the charter, which is looking at matters that involve APD and weighing in on those matters. And if they involve APD and the fire department or APD and the school, then those are other parties that should come to the table. But if they don't, they don't. We're just saying we should. We would want to ask the mayor to create such a task force and get everybody to the table to really look at this problem, something that hasn't been done and something that's not being done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fennell. That helps clarify it for me. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, it's the board's decision. I brought this forward for consideration, and whatever the board votes to do, you vote to do it. But you know, this is something that was brought to us, so that's what I was doing.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Ms. Elton.
Has anyone from the board spoke to a representative from Akron Public Schools? Because I still have the same concerns. I understood what you said,
Mm-hmm.
but
I sent every board member.
Mr. Fennell, hold on a second, Mr. Krabs.
Well, I was answering your question.
Before our last meeting, I spoke with Greg Harrison, who's over the Rules and Procedures Committee. And he said that, and it was the timeline that I was most concerned about the last time. And I think that Mr. Fennell has corrected that. And they're talking about, the first thing that Mr. Harrison said is that they couldn't even bring it to the board for 3 months because they have other things they're dealing with. And so, and then secondarily, he said no one had talked to him about that at that point. And he did say he had met with Dr. Goggins on some other matters. But so they at least, again, in our conversation, he expressed concern that any conversation that occurred before the new contract was brought up would be irrelevant. It would be unactable. And so, but I think that's really what we've tried to do, what this new reworked document says, that the reform would be presented at before the next contract. And I thought we were appealing for the mayor to call for or form a task force. So it's really not even us. We are actually appealing to a third party to put together something. And my attitude is the mayor's politically savvy enough and he's ran on safety. So if the NAACP appeals to him, I see no reason why he wouldn't do that. And then, as it was said here, numbers of us could participate, or we could have a member participate if the mayor calls for the committee. So I just feel like we were being used or leveraged by the NAACP for that. And they indicated they were more than willing to go, whether we don't. So again.
so
Miss.
Yes, so also, Anthony, am I correct by saying that you, as well as Mr. Krabs, both have talked to Superintendent Mary Outley? And you did send the document and shared the document with us, with Mary Outley, Superintendent of Schools?
I have not spoken directly with anyone. I have received an email response from another board member, but all of the board members, the superintendent, and her executive staff have received the memo because I did not want them to be blindsided by a request that was being made. But that's simply what it is our request is being made, and that was sent as a courtesy to them.
Yes, and you shared it with us.
Go ahead, Ms. Elton.
okay, still, my concern is no one from this board has met with whether it's our leadership here with the leadership at Akron Public Schools, and to weigh in on this without requesting a meeting with Akron Public Schools, I don't think it's our place.
Ms. Boswell.
I just wanted to share that I have probably the opposite reading of the situation as Mr. Krabs. I view that when the organization comes to us, it's because they have a trust built and a relationship built with us. that they have read our statement about what we stand for and what we try to do, and that they're viewing us as a collaborative body that is one part of their vision. It says to me that they're paying attention to our work. They're seeing the reviews that Mr. Fennell has put forward to us. They see that it's not just theoretical, the problems or concerns about the SROs in the schools. And so it's a natural partnership to reach out and say, we're trying to accomplish something. We want to talk about these issues, and you are going to be talking to these issues with the police department. So can we get a broader group of people together at the table? And I think that that's the best kind of governance. So I would more lean to not assuming that there's any kind of leverage as it is that this is maybe how things are supposed to work. That somebody comes forward to the body and says, we share some goals, and if we all sit at the same table, we can do right by our citizens in Akron. And I trust that process. I trust that if the mayor's inclined to follow the recommendation and form the task force, that the mayor can ascribe to them a charge that they'll be able to fulfill in the time frame that he would like to see, and then hopefully do some good work by having a group of people with a variety of perspectives weighing in on the issues.
Ms. Anaskevich?
Okay, so can we just like put a pin in this? And I'm gonna put the pin in it from my perspective. So what I hear is going on here between you, Ms. Boswell, thank you so much for your clarification, and you, Mr. Fennell, thank you so much for your clarification. Just because we have not in the past 3 years been brought in to a situation like this, it does not mean that we shouldn't be part of it. That's that's the long and short of it for me. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be part of it. And I think, Ms. Boswell, you just articulated that very point very well. And that's my pen that I'm putting in this.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm still making the point that we are weighing in on a third party. And for,
Third party being the NAACP.
yes, and for this board, even if it's the leadership and not the entire board, not to respectfully request a meeting with Akron Public Schools, no.
So you're
For a
saying either
partnership.
Kemp or myself should talk to Akron
Well,
Public?
I'm sure the entire board would like to be there, but I think that there needs to be a sit
I
down.
don't
We
have a
do
problem with
need
that.
to know if the Akron Public Schools are or have buy-in. Pastor Krabs, I recall last month stated that you spoke to a board member. And that's great. That's one board member. We don't know what the superintendent is thinking. And to Ms. Brooks' point, we cannot afford to alienate Akron Public Schools by charging forward without speaking to their leadership.
I don't see a problem with that.
All
I
right.
don't see a problem with that at all.
So,
But I think the mayor's taken over this thing, right?
I'm always in agreement with continue to have dialogue and a conversation about it. I think it's very interesting from a board perspective. And I don't want to belabor this, but I feel like on one hand, we're talking about transparency, and now there's a moment of transparency, and we're reluctant to follow through on transparency. But that's just my perspective based on what I'm hearing. And so we're going to recess in August. We'll meet in July. So I'm going to make a motion that we table this and that we spend the next 30 days trying to get something on the books to meet with Akron Public Schools, their leadership. I don't mind taking the lead in that. Anybody that wants to go, I'll see a time that they're available. And I think that's what's going to help to bring us to some type of consensus either way. So that is my motion on, is that we table the SRO task force. I want to say it's a memo that we want to send to Mayor Malik. Can I get a second?
Well,
Second.
Mr. Kemp, I think you already have a motion on the floor that was seconded.
Well, we're gonna amend
I
the
mean, just as a
motion.
point of order. So, yeah.
Yeah,
you've
we're gonna
already made a
amend the motion. We're gonna amend the
Okay.
motion that's on the floor, and we're gonna table that motion and this discussion into our next board meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Just want to point out that the representative who came here and spoke with us did tell us that they were going to move forward with or without our recommendation. And just the tabling should be in consideration of how soon they're going to do that. So it may not even be anything for us
May
to
not
vote on if they go forward.
Moot point.
Yeah,
No. Okay.
Okay,
but we're not tabling it to abscond or give that an opportunity to happen, just to do our due diligence.
Yep. Yeah, we're tabling this to meet with leadership of Akron Public Schools to get their impressions of the task force and the memo. Because again, to Miss Elton's point, I don't think we've heard back from anyone. And one that's been on this board a long time, things get misinterpreted, especially when things are birthed out of hostility. And so we don't want to walk that line. And so we'll roll call vote if there's no further discussion. Aniskevich,
yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
Boswell,
No.
Krabs,
Yes.
Elton,
Yes.
Hawkins, Weems, Boyd, yes. Motion passes. All right, community engagement.
Yes, hello, everyone. Don't have a whole lot. I will say that our office is, and our planning group will be convening next week to begin talking about what accountability circles will look like going forward. Now that the PERF report is done and implementation has began, we will begin to, plan what do we want discussions to look like when we engage the community regarding the PERF report and implementation. So I don't know, Mr. Krabs, if you wanted to add anything.
Condolences.
Anyways, I missed the meeting, had a family death, and so I have not done anything with the community.
Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. So I just talked to Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs is going to take the lead with reaching out to APS leadership and trying to get something scheduled between us. Is that okay, Mr. Krabs? Thank you so much for taking the lead on that. Next is finance. We don't have anything for finance, anything from human resources.
No.
Okay. I want to turn next.
Wait a minute, excuse me. I'm sorry, yes, we met with we did the onboarding with Ms. Boswell and I'm sorry,
Brooks.
Ms. Brooks. I'm sorry, I'm
That's okay.
got a lot going on. We did the onboarding last week. You and I, Mr. Boyd, and I just wanted to know if either one of you had any questions that you wanted to bring out in front of the board based on your onboarding experience that you had with us last week? Ms. Boswell? You or Ms. Brooks? Have anything you want to add to that, subtract? Do you have any questions of the entire board based on your onboarding from last week or anything at all?
No, I will say it was very informative. I feel like the materials we received were very directional. Mr. Fennell reached out to me personally to introduce himself and explain to me what his role was and invited me to contact him anytime, come by his office. So I do feel fully informed of how this board operates and what is expected of me.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you. Ms. Boswell?
My only feedback is that I've looked at the rules of the oversight board, and there is one paragraph about committees, but it doesn't really talk about how we're supposed to make up the committees. And I know just from my experience last week, um, I guess I want to bring up in conversation, I don't know if this is the time, but how do we constitute those committees so that we have, we can make decisions, we can vote on things, and we can't do that without a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Boswell. In each committee, there should be at least 2 board members per committee. And if that is not written down in a document, we need to get that changed, but it should be at least 2 board members per committee. And right now, our committees are governance, review, and community engagement. Our ad hoc committees are finance and HR. So between those at least 3 committees, we have 9 board members. So we have, more than enough board members to at least serve 2 per committee. Okay.
Is that
How-
something that we want to talk about today to make sure that in July we have committee participation?
Yeah, we can make a motion right now.
Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
having fully formed committees, which requires 2 members, is a different discussion than telling people they need to show up to the committee meetings.
Mhm.
So
Well-
you're saying we have fully formed committees because we have enough members. I think her point is the committee members are not showing up at the meetings, and I think that is a closed executive session discussion.
Yes, it is, because we've had that discussion before. Yes, many times.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you.
Mr.
Deputy
Mr.
Chief
Chair.
Miller, do you have anything you'd like to add this evening? Awesome. Mr. Fennell?
I don't know if you can have that discussion in closed session though.
No, I don't think we can either.
Yeah, 'cause it's
No.
not a, yeah,
It's not an employee issue.
it's not an employee
It's,
issue.
well, I mean, yeah, this is something that Mr. Boyd and I have talked about, and it's something I'm working on, not showing up to the committee meetings, but a board retreat. And so I'm working to get the legal opinion from the law department on our ability to have a board retreat outside of the public view, so that not to do board work, but to discuss some of the things like the rules and other issues, and have some board training. So I don't know if, where we are with that, Mr. Boyd. I don't know if you've heard back. I have not heard back from the law department. But
Yeah, I
know that's
mean,
something you and I
we-
talked about and they're working on with the law department.
No, we can have a board retreat. We just have to determine the day and the time that we're going to have it. But let me just say this. It is our responsibility and our duty as being a part of this board to serve on committees, period. That is not something we need to have a deep discussion about. Just show up to the committee meetings. We know when they are. They're the second Wednesday of every month. We have them all on one day. Like I don't understand any other way to say this. We have said it many, many times before. We have a full functioning board. Obviously, if somebody can't make a committee meeting, there's usually a time when nobody leaves after their committee is gone. So even if you're not a part of a certain committee and you're at a committee meeting, we have a board member there. Now, when we have our committee meetings, it starts, I think we're talking about adjusting the time. Did we ever do that? Because if I remember last meeting, it was talking about adjusting times to what was it, 5 or 5:30?
But I think Auditor Fennell said there were some pros and cons with moving the time.
Well, moving the day. If we move the time, say if as a board you say, okay, we want to start at 5:30, then we only have access to the libraries till 7:30. They close. So that would just we would just have 5:30 to 7:30 instead of 4:30 to 7:30, and we would have to adjust how the meetings went. Now, since we've changed and are going to change how we review the recommendations, adjusting may not be a bad thing. Okay, because we used that first hour to really go over all of the cases, and we had a little buffer in there if the discussions went longer. Now that we won't be going over all of the cases, moving it to 5:30 is feasible. It's just whatever the will of the board. But I do think it needs to stay on the second Wednesday because we have our standing board meeting on the third Wednesday, and that's just
And-
convenient for everyone.
And if my understanding, as far as governance is more where we're trying to draft up legislation, but we don't have anything that we're trying to do from that perspective when it comes to governance. So governance becomes a little bit more of a establishing and maybe possibly redefining or going back to the intent of when governance was originally formed. And that way, because right now we don't have a chair for governance. So we need to find a governance chair, or do we?
Well,
I don't think that we do. So I don't think that we do. I believe Ms. Myers,
we do.
essentially, you chair our community engagement along with a board member.
I believe that's been turned over to Mr. Krabs at this.
So Mr. Crab chairs, and so let's do this while we're here. So let's assign, so with our review committee, who's all a part of the review committee? Who chairs the review committee?
I thought it was, wasn't it Sean, Mr. Peoples?
Okay, Mr. Peoples,
What I'm asking, wasn't it him?
I believe it was. So who else is on the review committee?
Ms. Boswell has her hand up.
Boswell, awesome. So community engagement, chaired by Mr. Krabs. Who else is on community engagement? Mr. Weems, awesome. And then we have governance. Who wants to chair governance? Who? No, you can have it.
See. Yeah, wait until she. What?
Okay.
We didn't
So
hear all
we're
that.
talking about committee. So to catch you up, Ms. Brooks, our review committee is chaired by Mr. Peoples, and Ms. Boswell is on that one. Our community engagement is chaired by Mr. Krabs, and Mr. Weems is a part of that. Now we're on governance. I asked Ms. Elton to chair governance.
Hey, can you hold 1 second? Okay,
Yeah.
you're an attorney, correct?
Yes.
I think it makes more sense for an attorney to be the chair of the governance.
She can be a part of governance, but she doesn't have to chair it. I asked Ms. Elton to chair it. And Ms. Elton agreed if I'm correct. So I'm fine with that. Would you like to be on governance?
Sure.
Awesome. Cool.
Stan?
Everything is covered.
Mr. Boyd,
Yes.
Okay.
question, real quick.
Yes.
We're going to start or should start looking at the recommendations monthly that come out. So should there be maybe a policy or recommendation committee? I don't have a name for it, but a committee specific for that, or do you think that should just be rolled into the review committee?
It can either be rolled into review or possibly governance. Those are my first two thoughts.
Or governance. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, whatever suits the board, that's fine. I just want to make sure that, because that will become, I believe, a more pressing item as we do it each month to actually look at the themes and patterns for that period, and then have discussions on maybe how we move forward once the CIRB, Critical Incident Review Board,
Yeah, that
for APD gets created.
Yeah, I don't think we need to create another committee as much as
Okay.
maybe that becomes more of a governance role. And I
Okay.
think as Miss Elton and also Miss Brooks get settled, I would be curious to know your thoughts about where those recommendations need to roll, need to hide. But I don't want to create another committee. Go ahead, Miss Boswell.
You're
You're
muted.
muted. You're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about Catalina and Robert's public comment today. I think the flock issue is of concern to a great many people. Would that be a topic that we could speak maybe to Mr. Fennell and maybe Deputy Chief Miller at our next committee meeting? And I don't know whether that's a governance issue, but I'd like to know more about what could we do about that, what information we could gather to share with the citizens of Akron, and hearing them come to us and ask us for that. It, to me, is another example of trust that's being built between our community and this board. So I'd like to be able to do something on it at committee next month if it's possible.
Yeah, Mr. Fennell. I agree. It should. You should.
Right, but can I comment on that first? Don't we first have to determine if there has been any official complaints that have gone to the police department reference these flock cameras? Don't we have to find that out first?
Not necessarily. I mean, governance can choose to talk about that.
Well, I thought she was saying maybe we should,
I think she's just saying
Investigated
having
some-
a discussion about it. Because it was brought up
I
during
plan
public
to start
comment.
that process.
Pardon me?
I made notes and I'm going to start that process and to see just what you said, Ms. Anasievich, and what our community members have brought forward.
okay.
So
I
hopefully
mean,
by
it's
next
concerning to me too, but we still have a process that we have to
Right.
follow.
So I want to be able to bring something to the next committee meeting and begin those discussions to see what that would look like. I still have to get with Deputy Chief Miller and Mr. Morgan to see, what the systems and processes look like. But it's on my notes to begin to investigate that.
Okay.
I mean,
Mr.
not
Fennell.
investigate, begin to review based on their questions and then go from there on what we do next steps.
Mr. Fennell,
Okay.
in your review, I would love to see how other police departments are using that flock system and in how they're using it, how often is it misused and how often is it useful to the community? I think that those are important statistics and pieces of data to bring to that discussion.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a question too about the committee meetings. You say that, well, it's the second Wednesday of every month. So is each committee meeting the second Wednesday of every month?
Yes, the committee
And is
meeting.
everybody supposed, how are you supposed to bifurcate? Is one meeting at 4 o'clock and the next meeting at 5? I mean, how does that work?
And on the agendas that I send out for the committee meetings, I break it down. When it was at 4:30, it would always be review committee starts at 4:30, runs to about 5:30, and then from 5:30 till 6:30, it might be governance or community engagement. And if we had an HR discussion, then that would be the next break. So on the agenda, it kind of gives you a window of, so if you just want to come for one committee meeting and can't stay for all of them, then it gives you an idea of when to show up.
And so we are pushing it back to go from 5:30 to 7:30. So it'd be from 5:30 to 6:30 will be reviewed, then 6:30 to 7:30. So really, if we push it back, we can only meet and have 2 committee meetings on a Wednesday if we push it back. So are we still in favor of pushing it back?
Well, I think that Mr. Fennell raised a good point about the new process. If we don't have to go through 26 cases, then we don't maybe need the full time that we used to allocate for review.
And sometimes we end early. Even when we started at 4:30, sometimes we'd end at 6:30 if we didn't have a budget discussion or we didn't have because right now we don't have a budget discussion, but come the fall we'll start having to have budget discussions. So we've always allocated the 3 hours and then use what we needed and kind of worked, use the time within that 3 hour period to get our work done. If we got finished early, then we were finished early. But we know by 7:30 we had to be out.
Okay, so do we want to push it back to 5:30 and go from 5:30 to 7:30 or leave it?
If we push it back, we're not gonna do all three, like you said.
All right, one last question.
So so if we're doing review from 4:30 to 5:30, review is Peoples and Boswell, so that works for you all currently. So essentially, the other ones for that works for everybody else doesn't start to 5:30 anyway, correct?
Correct.
So why don't we leave it? Because if review is always first, and that's from 4:30 to 5:30. Yeah, right. And then governance essentially could be from 5:30 to 6:30.
Yes.
Well, I'm just going to budget 6:30 just in case. And then from 6:30 to 7:30, does governance meet on that day too? I mean not governance, but 6:30 to 7 is community engagement. All right, good. Human resources is an ad hoc. We only do that when we need to.
So everything's starting at 5:30,
Everything starts at 4:30.
4:30. I have to put this in my calendar.
So 4:30 to 5:30 is review. 5:30 to 6:30 is governance. I'm sorry,
It's
would y'all
governance.
rather do community engagement from 5:30 to 6:30 or governance?
I think,
Mr. Boyd,
I think community engagement should be the furthest slot away to give the most
Awesome.
community members a chance. to talk.
So 5:30 to 6:30 is governance and 6:30 to 7:30 community engagement. Yes, Ms. Boswell.
my only concern with that is that with the call for the transparency and the discussion of cases, I think it's difficult for public members to come at 4:30.
Okay, that's fine. Now what we're doing is we're going to have another day for a committee.
Well, could we try to do 5:30 to 7:30?
Yeah, I'm all for trying
Under-
it and see where it gets us to.
Under the new process to see, because we may not need as much time
Okay. So
for
let's
review.
so review will be what? 5:30 to 6?
Make it 45 minutes.
5:30 to 6:30. Okay. No, I'm sorry, 5:30 to 6:15. Then 6:15 to 7
7.
o'clock is governance. Then 7 to 7:30 is community engagement.
Correct.
Got it? Somebody
then-
writing?
Then
So
if
the
we
next
need
one is
to,
July 8th then, is that correct?
Correct.
yes. Then if we need during budget season, or if we need have an HR issue, we'll have to make adjustments, but we can discuss that at that time, how we make those adjustments.
Okay, so review will now be 5:30 to 6:15 p.m.
Yes,
Governance will now be 6:15 p.m. to 7 p.m.
yes,
And community engagement will be 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
correct.
And do we know where yet?
Yes, Highland Square Library.
Okay,
Every time, that's where it's always at.
okay,
No, it changes.
no,
But
Okay, either way, it gets noticed, and so
Yeah,
look
it
at your
gets
emails,
noticed.
check your emails, look at the agenda.
I did.
All right. Do we have a need for executive session? No.
No, okay. I won't be at our board meeting on July 15th. I'll be at my family reunion out of state.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
just letting you know.
All right. Man, my chair's comment is very simple. Thank you all so much for your work. man, a very productive meeting. We got stuff down with our committees, which I think is the most important. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you, Ms. Fennell and Ms. Myers, for your continued diligence. And man, God bless the city of Akron. I'd like to make a
Thank you.
motion to adjourn. All in favor signify